and Ryan. Okay, you're good to go.
Before calling this Pembroke Upper Ottawa Valley OPP Detachment Board meeting to order for May 21st, I would respectfully acknowledge on behalf of council and the community that the city of Pembroke resides in the unceded traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We thank the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years, and it is with this statement that we honor and respect the Algonquins on whose land we reside. I'd call this meeting to order. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. I'd entertain a motion to approve an amended agenda moving 8A up to right after the approval of the minutes. As I understand, we have the detective constable on Zoom. So I'd entertain a motion for that effect. So second, moved by Mike, seconded by Pat. Those in favor? That is carried. Minutes January 30th, 2025, having been circulated as part of the package. All people were in attendance, so I'd entertain a motion moved by Christine, seconded by Des. Those in favor? That is carried. Any business arising from that? Seeing none. So if we could skip then forward to 8A, we have a presentation this afternoon, anti-rackets presentation. So I don't know if the staff sergeant wishes to introduce the detective constable, or if the detective constable on the line is just going to swing right into it.
I'll let John just take it away. And just remember you.
Thanks so much for having me. How do you guys hear me? Doing pretty good. Okay, well, sorry I couldn't be there in person. I just didn't want to delay our presentation after having given it to the Petawawa Police Services Board a few weeks ago. I'm in Niagara Falls at a conference here, so it's perfect. We have this technology to help us out. So just by introduction, my name is John, and I've been with the OP since 2001. I've had some experience working in Prince Edward County, moved on to Lanark County in major crime. Steph Neufeld and I, we worked together in Carlton Place. Sorry, they're doing the fire alarm here. And then from there, I went to Ottawa Traffic, and from Ottawa Traffic, I've been in the anti-rackets branch since 2015. So I'm located in Canada. So without further ado, we'll get into the presentation. And if you have any questions, certainly feel free to put in the chat, or you can stop me. And we'd like to have this as more of a fireside chat. So we'll take it away here. So just to give you some context of how the anti-rackets branch fits in the OPP, you have the financial crime services section, and under that you have the anti-rackets branch, and then you have the serious fraud office. Within the anti-rackets branch, we have the cyber-enabled fraud team. We look at crypto fraud investigations. We have the economic crime and corruption team that I work in, and that's in Ottawa, and we have 4 teams. We have the health fraud unit, where we're contracted by the Minister of Health to look at bad doctors, bad pharmacists, people abusing OHIP. We have members seconded to the Ontario Securities Commission, and we also have a member or members assigned to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. So within the OPP and the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, we work with a vast amount of international policing partners. We work really closely with the U.S. Embassy in Ottawa and their deployed members across Canada. And this really helps us out with our cross-border investigations. We work with Europol, we work with Interpol, and we have great relations with the RCMP liaison officers deployed around the world. And why am I mentioning this to you? Well, when we look at cyber-enabled crime, it's global. We have case law that supports us in sharing information from Canada to the US.
Don, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I was just going to wait for a break. If you could put the slideshow in like slideshow mode, we're not seeing the transition of the information on your slides. Yeah.
Okay, let me see that. Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. Thanks. Yeah, just it wasn't transitioning, so we missed a few slides, but you explained them well.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm not sure when this horrific alarm is going to stop going off. Can you see that there? Sometimes with Zoom, it doesn't work so well. Can you see this screen at least?
Yes, it's on track now.
Okay, so we'll go for this screen. So let me just go down here. So the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is made up of the OPP, the RCMP, and the Competition Bureau. And why I say that is I was seconded over as a detective sergeant for 3 years there, and it was started by the OPP as phone busters back in the day. And the RCMP saw the success of the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, of phone busters, and then it was just natural to bring everyone together. So the OPP is part of the operational management team of the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, and the sister organization is NC3, which is the National Cybercrime Coordination Centre. So both organizations support investigations, but they don't actually conduct investigations. So NC3 would look at your ransom attacks, your data intrusions that we're seeing in small municipalities, where the Anti-Fraud Centre is looking at, fraud using technology. So how bad is fraud in Canada? When I first started the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, our fraud losses were $164 million. Pandemic hit and people started doing most of their businesses online. And we see over the last 3 years, the massive jump in fraud losses. What's of note is there was a McMaster University study that estimated that only 5 to 10% of victims report their frauds to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. So when we look at the losses of last year that jumped 648 million, that's a small drop in the bucket. Our American counterparts had reported $17 billion in fraud losses last year alone. So it's based on population density. So our victims are made up of really anyone and everyone. These fraudsters are hitting everyone. Like how many people today probably got a phishing scam with a text message asking you to click on a link? How many of us would have got the robocalls coming through with someone saying, press 1 to talk to a customer service agent? How many emails come in your system as spam? So bad actors just want money from everyone. But what we do see is the fraud reports are based on population density. So that's why Ontario represents the most loss reports that we see across Canada. We are seeing a trend of people under the age of 60 that are our biggest growing demographic. And why is that? That comes directly down to cryptocurrency investment frauds. The challenge we are seeing with seniors is they lose on average 33% more. So I was able to share with Victoria, show me the fraud toolkit that we were able to provide from the Anti-Fraud Centre. It's in French and English, and this is a great document that's a resource that you can hand out to your residents. But the seniors, you ask why are they losing 33% more? When we look at the emergency grandparent scam, we had one victim who had lost $600,000, and you ask, how can you lose so much money in such short order of time? Well, she couldn't remember what she ate or did the day before, so her cognitive ability had declined so much that it was just easy pickings for these bad actors. Breakdown of the age groups. So you'll see here that again, seniors operate or occupy most of the percentage of the fraud losses. We are seeing an increase of frauds attacking businesses, and that has to do with spear phishing or business email compromise, which we'll get into in a minute. But some people ask me, are younger adults victimized? And they're absolutely are victimized. They're normally hit with job scams and different sort of online classified fraud ad. If you look at the Taylor Swift concert tickets, how many Swifties were out there trying to get concert tickets and people were just advertisement online and getting swindled. So the top fraud by reports that the Anti-Fraud Centre receives is predominantly identity fraud, phishing scams, and personal information reports that they receive. During the height of pandemic, compromised data was being used to open up fraudulent accounts to receive the CERB benefit. That's why Government of Canada lost billions of dollars to that. So one data breach allows the bad actors to purchase that data on the dark net and then be able to mobilize that information to commit fraud. We see service scams. You probably see them in the media where you have the elderly people signing up for HVACs or equipment in their homes, only for their family members to find out when they've passed that their estate now has massive liens against their property. And then we have crypto investment frauds. When we look at the frauds by number, and this is what's really staggering, crypto investment frauds are number one. So of the 600 and $50 million in reported loss, half of that was crypto investment frauds. The next one, which is of interest to municipalities, school boards, businesses, has to do with spear phishing. We'll talk about that. Then romance fraud, which is really interesting. When you look at the losses of romance fraud, how many victims versus the amount that's been lost, and it's pretty staggering. We have job scams where people may think that they're able to work from home. You probably see these text messages, be an influencer, be an accounts manager, move funds, basically turning the victims into money mules. We have extortion frauds, which you probably saw in the past, which was your CRA extortion fraud. If you don't pay this outstanding tax, you're going to be arrested. You're new to Canada, we're CBSA. If you don't pay your outstanding immigration warrant, you're going to be deported. So they use this sense of urgency and social engineering to get their victims to hand over their hard-earned cash. So I did a data scrape for the duty code that occupies Upper Ottawa Valley. And what I was able to find is there was a significant amount of reports, which we're seeing in every detachment cluster. But the types of frauds that we're seeing. So card not present, that's when you have a business that receives a phone call and the bad actor's on the phone and they have stolen credit card information. And they're saying maybe it's the ATV shop. I'd like to buy your ATV. Here's my credit card number. I'll have someone pick it up, or can you drop it off this location? So that's card not present frauds. And the vendor loses the equipment, but also they have to pay the charge back to the credit card. They can't recover those funds. Crypto investment frauds that we'll talk about. We talked about the online classified frauds. That has to do with Kijiji and Marketplace. We're seeing a considerable amount of ID fraud, again, credit card fraud. Account takeovers, where individuals will go into financial institutions with fake ID and try to purport to be the account holder. And then we get in the emergency grandparent scam and the bank investigator scams. So the list goes on. And this is very consistent of what we're seeing across Ontario, police, OPP patrolled areas, but also throughout Canada. So, as a fraud investigator, as an instructor, the motto is always follow the money. So when you look at what victims have paid to the bad actors, cryptocurrency is number one. It was number two over the last few years, but crypto has really jumped up. Wire transfer was number one. So you're seeing a massive shift of bad actors preferring to use cryptocurrency because of the anonymous nature of it and the fact that once it's sent up to the bad actor, it can be laundered around the world very quickly, where the wire transfer is an established system and there could be recovery of those funds from financial institution to institution. E-transfers, again, we go back to that online classified fraud ad, whether it be Kijiji, Auto Trader, or Marketplace, and the list goes on. How are the victims being contacted? It's really important for us. So the Anti-Fraud Center is a disruption program. We'll talk in a few slides why it's important to report to the Anti-Fraud Center, but we're able to track how the victims are being contacted. So not surprised, social media is very significant, and a lot of that has to do with romance frauds and crypto investment frauds. So social media, text messages, email messages, direct phone calls. So each one has their own sort of threat vector that the bad actors use. And we'll talk about the direct phone calls with the grandparent scam. So as I mentioned, when the victims actually report to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, or our officers actually share reports to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, I managed a team of people that would extract the data, whatever the intervals, monthly, bi-weekly, what have you. We were able to extract bad phone numbers that the bad actors used, merchant credit cards or merchant accounts. So that had to do with counterfeit materials, bad bank accounts that were receiving money from the victims, email addresses that were being used. The Gmail email addresses that you can change in short time or order. websites and e-transfers. So what happens is the Anti-Fraud Center extracts this data and sends it to those private businesses, complying with the privacy legislation, of course, but shares that off to say to the businesses, take this information, do what you will, but we're suggesting you may want to deplatform these accounts, or to protect your clients. So it's sharing intelligence that way. So when we talk about crypto investment frauds, what we're seeing is we're seeing people going on social media. We're seeing them go on YouTube. Maybe there's an advertisement of sorts saying, jump into cryptocurrency investments because Elon Musk says so, or Justin Trudeau, or whoever. They'll use AI technology to actually spoof the celebrity. They'll say, I invest in crypto, look how well I've done. So there's testimonials. So they'll say for $250, you can easily jump into the crypto game. You can make so much money. So again, it has a breakdown of each province, and you can see Ontario is the most significant losses across the country. So just massive. So what they'll do is they'll take these people to a fake platform. They'll tell them on either your smartphone or your laptop, download AnyDesk or software like that, remote entry, so they can find out exactly, they can teach you exactly how to create your crypto wallet. They'll teach you how to move your e-transfer from your funds from your bank account into this crypto wallet that you've created. And then from there, you send the crypto to the bad actor, and the bad actor will have a platform, and on that investment platform, it will show how much they think their money has grown. I had a victim in Arnprior area who lost $5 million to a crypto investment fraud. I had a victim in Toronto that lost $10 million to a crypto investment fraud. So these are people that have been investment people for their whole lives and have just been duped because of how great the social engineering is. So what will happen a lot of these times is once the victim sends them the funds, they're laundered very quickly right afterwards. So the top frauds that we're seeing with crypto being a payment method is obviously the crypto investment frauds and the job scams, and it goes on. This is an example of what a crypto ATM machine looks like. And up above is crypto receipts. And to the right is hardware wallets where you can store your crypto wallet address. And then on the bottom right is NFTs, which is basically digital art that people buy with crypto. Why do I mention that? Well, because Canada's number 2 in the world for the most crypto ATM machines. And we can certainly search, we can go online to Coin ATM Radar, and you can find an example of where one of these machines are. So let me see if I can jump in this and show you my screen. Okay, so let's see if I can stop sharing, and then I'll go and share my screen here. Just give me a second here. Let's see. Okay. It's just taking a minute. Well, technology's not working for me here. All right. Sorry about that. We'll get back to our PowerPoint here. Okay. Needless to say is you can put in a postal code, you can put an address or a name of a town, and you'll find the closest location to you. There's a bunch up in the upper Ottawa Valley. You'll find this at your shawarma shop, your pizza shop, convenience store. So why is this of interest? Well, there's really no value to going to a Bitcoin ATM machine and purchasing it right from this machine. They actually charge you 30% more as a fee. So there's no investment reason for it. Essentially, it's for money laundering. We're seeing prostitutes when they're finished with their client, if you will, they're putting their money in the crypto ATM machine. We're seeing drug dealers do the same thing. Then they're not stopped and caught with cash from the police. The pimp running the girls, they now will know how much money is coming in, so they haven't been shorted. So we're seeing a lot of victims. They'll be contacted by the scammer for whatever scam pitch that they're given, and they'll be given a QR code in a text message, or we've even had it where the bad actors will call Staples and have it printed off. and then the victims will pick up the QR code. They'll walk into this convenience store. They'll click on the machine. They'll put their QR code up to the machine. It opens up all the information they need, and the victims literally just dump their cash in, press send, and off they go around the world. So this is why it's of concern for us. What have we done in the OPP to try and address this? Well, we collaborated with the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. We came up with these posters, with these handouts, and with these stickers that each police services board or each OPP detachment can work with their community engagement officers and see if the owners of the business will allow us to fix this in and around the crypto ATM machines. So we're trying to bring more awareness to people. Crypto is one aspect. We're seeing a lot of Chinese money laundering organizations operate through Canada and the US. And what are they doing? Well, they're stealing gift cards. That's right. They're going to your Shoppers Drug Mart. They're going to wherever you might find your gift cards at dollar store. They're ripping these things off the racks. They're putting them in their bags. They're leaving the store. And these are what we call the tamperers. So they have boiler rooms in the background, and they're literally creating their own barcode, opening up the gift cards, putting their own barcode on this, packaging it back up, and putting it back up on the shelf. So the unsuspecting victim that goes to put money on for their children's gift cards or their whoever they're buying the gift for, they're now applying that money to the bad actors' controlled card. Why are they doing that? Well, they're going to go into a Best Buy. Let's say they have the card. They're now going to buy an Apple iPhone with the gift card money. They're going to take that Apple iPhone. They're going to take the original iPhone out, have a counterfeit iPhone, throw it back in, go and get the refund. So your funds are now helping them launder money. What else are we seeing? We're seeing the bad actors basically steal credit card information and tokenize it. So they're tokenizing it and they're using it for the tap to pay. So they're going to go into a Walmart, they're going to buy gift cards, and they're going to use stolen credit card information in order to tap that information and make the payment. What we're also seeing is we're seeing these phishing text messages that come in and have a hyperlink. So you click on the hyperlink and it takes you to the bad actors' web pages that they control. And as you're typing in your credit card information, let's say you want to pay Canada Post, you're putting your credit card information. As you put in the live keystrokes, they're seeing it on their side. What they'll do is they'll tokenize your credit card information and they'll use it for that relay tap to pay system. It's absolutely brilliant the way they're laundering funds by using stolen credit card data. This is Michael Glau. He's with Toronto Police. He's actually here today at the conference, and he basically broke open a SIM swap operation. As a result, they arrested 10 people and laid 108 charges. But what is SIM swap? SIM swap is when a bad actor within a telco is given the SIM information. Your SIM card allows you to connect with the networks. Just one sec, folks. It's getting a little loud here, so I'll just move out of the way. So that. Okay, so with SIM swaps, what they're doing is if you take someone's SIM card and you put it in your phone, it will now connect you to that person's cell phone network. And then the bad actors will basically reset people's passwords, and the one-time password code will go to the bad actors. Now they can get into your bank account, they can get your social media and commit various amounts of frauds. Business email compromise. We're seeing an increase year over year with business email compromise. What is it? What happens is an organization may get an email, and in that email, there is a malicious link. People click on the link. It basically creates a rule with their email to send blind copies of that email to the bad actors. Now the bad actors is watching the business and vendors communication going back and forth. You'll see in Ontario that $39 million were lost last year. So what will happen in this case is the vendor will say, hey, can you please change my banking information? The business said, yep, no problems. The form looks good. We'll change it. And then a week later, they'll say, hey, by the way, there's an invoice that you owe us funds. Because they've seen the emails back and forth, they basically have copied an invoice, manipulated, and asked for payment to be made. Unbeknownst to the organization, that invoice has been paid. And then lo and behold, when the real vendor comes out and says, hey, look, I'm still outstanding for funds from an invoice, and then the business is like, well, we paid that. And then they bring in their lawyers and they start fighting with each other. So this typical business email compromise is operated throughout the world, but mostly being operated by West African gangs. There is some success. When I was working at the Anti-Fraud Center late on Friday evening, we were able to have a business, Ontario business, that lost 1.2 million to a wire transfer. It was actually 2 wire transfers. I was able to act on it within short order, and I was able to get $615,000 back for the Canadian victim through the U.S. Secret Service in our contact. That's why I mentioned earlier in our presentation, we work with our law enforcement partners around the world and south of the border. So that was pretty happy news for our victim. We didn't actually arrest a bad actor. We shared the information with the police of jurisdiction overseas to see if they can start acting on it. But it was a good day for a victim getting half their funds back. Service scams. We're seeing different types of service scams. You may see what we talked about, the service scam, where the elderly people are being victimized through purchasing HVACs or equipment in their homes and signing these contracts. The debt is essentially sold from the bad actors to a debt collection company, and then they get paid out. Meanwhile, the victims have a hot water tank that's going to cost them $70,000. So the Ministry of Ontario has the ministry in Ontario in charge of consumer affairs has changed legislation. They've removed these things called nosies, which make it a lot more difficult, but the fraud still occurs. So the OP has an active investigation called Project Starboard on this. And we're trying to get the message out to have victims, go to the Ontario website and learn what their rights are when they've signed a contract, how there's a cooling off period. The other type of service frauds is where we'll see an individual see a pop-up on their screen and told that maybe their McAfee is expired, their antivirus software. The victims will be told to download AnyDesk or what have you, which gives access to the bad actor. They'll say you need to make a payment. They'll have the victims, mostly elderly folks, they'll jump on their online banking. The victim will be told to go get a piece of paper or pen. They'll black out the screen. They'll basically move money from their line of credit in their checking account. The victim will come back and the bad actor will say, hey, look, there's an overpayment that we credited you for. You have to pay us the difference or else we're going to get fired or you can be arrested. The victims will now take that extra payment, the cash, maybe the $9,000 or $10,000, and they'll ask to put it in cryptocurrency, gift cards, you name it, wire transfer. And so that's how they're victimized. Extortion frauds, we talked about that. We talked about how the most common is the CRA or CBSA. We actually had an interesting case out of Grenville. We work with the U.S. Homeland Security on this one. Essentially, a victim had one of those robocalls, said press 1 to speak with a customer service agent, said their social assurance number has been compromised. They said, we need you basically to withdraw all your funds from your bank account because it's attached to your social assurance number that's been compromised, and you need to take all your money and put it in a government-controlled wallet to help out with our undercover investigation. You wouldn't believe it, but people actually fall for this. So this one particular woman in Grenville, she was 80 years old. She fell for this. She was on the phone the whole time. She'd called a taxi to pick her up, and they went to many different financial institutions in the west end of Ottawa to pick up a total of $70,000. And then she was driven to Bayshore Mall where there's a crypto ATM machine, and she just dumped all of her money in. It was the first time I've had a fraud in progress where I actually got a call from the patrol officer who got a call from the taxi company that thought something was suspicious. Long story short, we traced the crypto. The investigation took us to the U.S. We were supported by a U.S. Federal attorney. We were able to get search warrants. HSI did some door kicks, arrested a Chinese national who's married to an American woman, and found out that he was one of the 3 people spread around the world that were facilitating money laundering, and he was moving hundreds of millions of dollars through his crypto wallets. So it just goes to show the 1 degree separation here between a victim in Ontario and a worldwide global network of fraudsters. Romance frauds. We're seeing a new trend with romance frauds. You've probably seen the Tinder Swindler or different shows like that on Netflix, but with romance frauds, someone has basically been convinced that they're communicating with someone that has an interest. So they spark a relationship online, the conversation starts going, it starts getting romantic, and mostly, widows or folks that are looking to get back in the dating game will be victimized, and the bad actor will, profound love will be expressed, and then they'll create this scenario. So what is the scenario? I'm a geologist overseas. My son's injured. I need to get money to him. I can't access it here. Can you send me some money? I'll pay you back. Can you send me money so I can put a down payment on the house that we're going to live in BC, so you can get away from these Canadian horrible weather winters, and we can live in BC all happy. We're starting to see what's called crypto romance fraud, or pig butchering, and that's basically a Chinese term for fattening up the pig and slaughtering it. So what they're doing is, not only it's a romance fraud, they're getting into a crypto romance fraud. So they're telling the victim, invest in crypto, hold it for me, and then, we'll make so much money when we get together, we're going to live like kings and queens. So in Kempville, we had a great investigation. The OP ended up getting the plane in the air. We have the emergency response team. We ended up arresting a individual from Toronto that was the money mule, and he took 20% of this woman's $150,000 and sent it back to Nigeria. So we were able to arrest him. We got into his phone, and this individual was involved with any sort of fraud you can think of. He was doing gift card frauds. He was stealing wallets off of eating areas in a mall. He had people inside telcos and financial institutions data harvesting information. He was part of a SIM swap investigation. So one bad actor had national and international connections. We ended up charging him 15 counts of possessing identity information for victims in Canada, US. And so we worked with the RCMP and Homeland Security on this one. If you're interested and bored and want to listen to my voice for 3 minutes in a 7-part true crime series, I work with BBC and CBC, well, a production company, on their behalf. And it's a really great story about international romance frauds and how lucrative it is. So the journalist was in Nigeria. She actually gave us some good information to help us understand how these frauds are operating, but nevertheless, it's a good 7-part series. Little vulgar at times, just the nature of what it is, but there we go. So we'll talk about the grandparent scam. It's near and dear to my heart. When I was at the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, we're seeing a lot of people being victimized for it, and I'm really proud of our organization. We actually started something called Project Sharp, and it really tackled the emergency grandparent scam. So what is the emergency grandparent scam? That was a visual, by the way. This visual and the next visual we post on social media, and we'll talk about why it's important to get fraud prevention messaging out. So the emergency grandparent scam, these are the consistent factors. All of our victims in these scams have landlines. AI technology is not being used in these particular frauds. Bad actor will type in a postal code. They'll find out victims in Canada 411 that are in the area. Well, what do you get from Canada 411? You get a phone number, you get an address, and you get a name. So that's just perfect information for the bad actors to use. They know that people over the age of 60 are most people that are going to have landlines. They just hold on to those landlines. They think they're a safety net. Really, when really your electricity goes out more than your cell phones, but nevertheless, people still have landlines. So these bad actors will identify an area, have a courier that may be unwitting, that has no idea what's happening. They've just been paid on Kijiji or Facebook to pick up packages and move them around like a courier. So the bad actors will get a phone call. The phone call will be like something like this. Hey, Grandma. Hey, who's this? It's your favorite grandson. Is it Johnny? It's Johnny. Grandma, my voice sounds off. I have bad throat infection. You wouldn't believe this. My buddy and I were driving to get me some cold medication. And you couldn't believe it. We ran into and T-boned this pregnant woman, and the cops are here, and they found cocaine and marijuana in the back of my car. I've been arrested, but the cop tells me that I'm, just gonna be held for bail and I'm gonna be released. It's my friend that had the drugs. And can you talk to the cop? And so the officer will jump on, and these guys should have got the Academy Award because we actually overheard them on intercepts on wires, where, you know, he'd say, "I'm Officer so-and-so from the RCMP. Your grandson is in grave danger. You need to provide money to get them out of jail. It's bail money. You need to take cash out, and we're going to send a courier, and he's going to pick it up on behalf of the Crown Attorney, and then your grandson will get out." And then the grandson gets on and closes the deal. So for these victims, they literally believe, maybe they have cognitive issues, that their grandson has actually called them. And the other hook on this is they're essentially saying that there's a gag order. If you tell anyone, it's going to be much, much more worse for your grandchild. So that's how the grandparent scam operated. The bank investigator scam operates very similar. So they'll literally send a courier to the house after the senior has gone out, taken money out of their bank. They'll normally take it out of the ATM, whatever amount they can't get out, because there's a maximum amount per day that you can take out from your ATM. They'll go into the branch, and they'll tell the branch folks that, you know, we've heard a horrible story where it was money to be wired for our my sister's funeral. $30,000 was wired to the bad actor in Montreal. So that's how they're getting the cash. And so the courier will pick up the cash. It will be in an envelope. It'll have the incident number on there, and the courier will pick it up and walk away. Normally there's a second attempt the next day, and because they know that the police may be aware of this, the victim may have complained to the police, they'll now set it up that they'll have the victim take out cash and go to Purelator or UPS or Canada Post and have it shipped. What's interesting is those companies have a policy that you cannot ship cash in mail. So we've worked with them to actually intercept and recover funds for victims if we know what happens. But so that's the framework on how it happens. So during 2023, I was asked to come up with a robust fraud prevention strategy, working with the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center and the RCMP. So what we did, we came up with a live chat that we did online on social media. We came out with multiple media releases. I did national TV, I did podcasts, I did radio interviews, I did interviews with the Globe and Mail and all the online print. So, and then what I did is I came up with this handout, which your detachment will have. And it was like a lock it or lose it sort of handout. Red is bad, green is good. And we wanted to get simple, concise messaging out there. The other challenge is when you have an elderly demographic, they may not be on social media. They may not be watching the news. They may not go to their local coffee spot. You know, that trend is coming back post-pandemic, but, you know, they may be isolated. So what we did is we worked with the Ministry of Long-Term Care, Minister of Health, the Royal Canadian Legion, with law enforcement units that were designated to work with seniors. We put this out with our community services officer. So we tried to blanket as much of the population with this information as we could to bring this awareness while we're conducting our investigation. Well, the results of the investigation were great. We did a 3-month investigation. We were up on wires. It cost a significant amount of money, but we were able to arrest 15 people, and we identified 126 victims across Canada. And you see the different partner agencies that we had. We had Homeland Security, we had the SQ, we had the GTA Police Services, and we had FinTrack, our anti-money laundering organization, to help us out. At your leisure, there is a video here. You can click on X where we did a production video of our takedown, and it was pretty impressive. We were able to identify that of those 126 victims, they lost 739 million, and we knew that was only in a short range of time. We were able to work when we were able to identify where the victim's financial institution was to contact the financial institution. So behind the scenes, we were able to recover or freeze or prevent $559,000 from going out the door. When you look at the age of the demographics of the victims, most of them were over the age of 60. So, you know, we're having people with cognitive decline get hit. We always tell them, just hang up the phone and call your loved one on the phone number you have. And that was the messaging we put out. Come up with a code word. Maybe it's the color blue. That's your code word for your family. So you know when that person's calling, that verifies who they are. So the messaging did get out, and it was a very successful investigation. The SQ just took down a cell recently, and a few years ago they took down another cell. So a lot of work to get to these success stories. The OPP launched Project Atlas in the fall. And what was that? That was looking at the crypto investment frauds. So I came up with this website. I came up with handout materials that you're going to see on the next slide. It was a checklist. It was to tell people how to prevent themselves from being fraudsters, how to secure their accounts, and what have you. So out of this 1 week sprint that we had, it was 5 weeks of operation, but 1 week in Ottawa, we had the Secret Service there and different police services, and we were able to identify over 2,000 crypto addresses that we believe were victim addresses. We shared them with police services around the world. We were able to disrupt what we believe was $70 million from going out the door that week for crypto investment frauds. And the Secret Service helped us freeze and recover over $24 million. So not bad work. And we were able to share our methodology with other police services. So kudos to the OPP for thinking outside the box and having the support of our command on that. AI technology. We are seeing a massive increase in AI technology. We're seeing bad actors use ChatGPT to come up with their scripts so that there's no language issues that we would typically identify as a red flag. We're seeing a lot of deep fakes when it comes to generated images of individuals and their voices. For as little as $10 a month, you can buy or subscribe to a service that allows you to use a catalog of different audio and video to spoof and deepfake, your CEO of your corporation or what have you. So we're seeing a lot of the AI being used for the phishing attacks. You can launch these attacks at scale and have a bot basically communicating with the victims. And like I said, we're seeing the voice spoofing or the video spoofing mostly to do with crypto romance frauds, but we're also seeing it with business email compromises where they're pretending to be the CEO of a corporation. Well, how do we target this? Well, fraud prevention really is the key. Just like the war on drugs, we can't arrest our way out of fraud. So how do we do that? Well, it's about giving that awareness piece to the public where they hang up the phone and they're not victimized. We get this information out. What we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of victims being turned into money mules. So how can the banks disrupt a bad account if it's being used by a good person that's moving the money around? So how does a money mule work? Well, we wanted to give awareness. So we did a 1 week money mule awareness campaign. And essentially one victim in a lottery scam is believed they're sending money to win that lottery to another victim. And the other victim may be as part of an inheritance scam. And so there's a circle of e-transfers and the money is eventually pushed out to one victim who pushes out to cash into crypto and then off it goes. So getting this awareness is key. What is the OPP doing about it? Well, we're coming up with a cyber-enabled plugin. This is a report that's going to allow us in the OPP to identify what fraud trends we're having, what's the methodology of communication with the victims, what our total loss is, and how we can start targeting with enforcement and targeted on social media and a public awareness campaign. And the other piece to this will be with the first police service to send these reports to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, which we have members part of, and they are able to ingest this information to the database, which helps other investigations. We've updated our OPP website that is more robust with more information on what the top frauds that we're seeing. But not only that, how to prevent yourself from being a victim, or if you're a victim, what to do if you're a victim. In March, we work with our policing partners across Canada and we launch Fraud Prevention Month. We're seeing a trend where a lot of community services officers are putting out fraud prevention information when they see a trend instead of waiting for the month. So that's very encouraging. We're seeing a lot of organizations, businesses, financial institutions, school boards. We're seeing a lot of people put fraud prevention information out, and knowledge is really key in this area. We tell people, report to your local police of jurisdiction, but also report to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. Why? Because we understand the trends. When these reports come in, we can work on disruption and we can share this information with our policing partners to help combat these frauds. I had a fraud in Eastern Ontario. The officer asked me to run information. I did deconfliction. I found out that there is 6 other investigations across Canada. We're able to run that information through Homeland Security. We're able to identify there's more victims in the States. So all these victims totaled $12 million in losses, and we're able to start targeting that and working an investigation. As a result, 2 Romanian nationals were arrested in California. One individual had flown from Paris to Montreal and then got himself in the States. So you can see how the information from the Anti-Fraud Center database brings it together, and we can't do it without the public reporting. If the public wants to go onto the Anti-Fraud Center website, they can browse A to Z scams to understand the different scam types, how affecting different demographics and affecting businesses. We also have on the Anti-Fraud Center website what to do if you're a victim, and it's 9 steps on how to protect yourself or get back on track once you have been a victim. And this really does help investigators. So when they call the police, they have all their documents, they have the correspondence, they've reported it to their social media organizations that they may be using or platforms. They've notified their financial institutions so they can stop the bleeding, and they've notified the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. They've notified Equifax and TransUnion. So it's these 9 steps that really help empower victims. Or townships, cities, businesses, the public can sign up to partners at Anti-Fraud Center to receive the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center bulletins, any sort of media trends and media releases that we want to get out to the public. So anyone can jump on that and they'll receive it through the blast out. And that is my presentation. So I wanted to finish off early for you folks. And is there any questions you folks have?
So questions and comments? Pat?
You're doing great. Here.
Thank you. Sorry. Someone scammed my mic. You know, very informative, but very scary too. I mean, we could all be victims. I think everybody here, like you said, gets a text or a phone call, maybe numerous times a day. My grandmother and I had passed this on to committee before to the board. My mother actually was part of a grandparent scheme, but she was smart enough to ask the right questions. It was actually happened to her twice. She has a landline. Once it was someone posing as my niece, saying that she was in a fender bender and she was with a friend who was driving. It was just like you said, and there was drugs in the car, and like it was the whole thing. But when my mother questioned her and said, "Where's the baby?" She has a baby. And she said, "Oh," and they paused. And so she caught them. You know, they didn't know anything about a baby. But anyway, and then my nephew was the same thing. And had she not said, you know, what's your mother's name to my supposed nephew? And then he's just said, "Well, why are you asking me that, Granny?" You know, and then she knew it was something. But anyway, thank you very much for this informative presentation. Crypto is a big mystery to me, and I think as it is for a lot of people. But recently, someone told me they save a lot of money on their heating bill because they pay through crypto. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Yeah, so right now, financial institutions or major organizations do not accept crypto as a method of payment. So I don't know what method they would be using, but no, you wouldn't. Essentially, the financial institutions to pay for their infrastructure, they charge us service fees per month, right? So depending on what crypto you buy, you also pay a transaction fee. And so to take the mystique out of cryptocurrency, the way I teach on the police college courses is that think of cryptocurrency like you're going to McDonald's and you're going to go buy a gift card. You walk in with fiat currency, which would be a $20 bill. You walk up to the McDonald's staff, they will basically take that $20 bill, swipe your gift card, and that alphanumeric number behind your gift card now equates to that $20 value. So now you can use that card essentially around the world. And so when you purchase cryptocurrency, you're putting money into essentially what's called a wallet that has your cryptographic information, and you're able to transfer that, and that is equated to a value, right? So that's how cryptocurrency works around the world. And so we actually have crypto tracing licensed software that's expensive, and that's why it costs a lot of money to have modern police service, is because each analyst needs 2 licensed software to conduct the traces, and it takes quite a bit of work. So yeah, so I've never heard of people paying their hydro bill. I've heard of scams where people are paying their hydro bill with crypto, but yeah, it hasn't come to mainstream. It's starting to come that way, where you can transfer funds from your bank account, your crypto account, into a credit card and what have you. So you're going to see more adoption, but
Weird.
I do believe the technology is brilliant. It's just like anything else. The bad actors have honed on to another
Yeah.
digital currency that allows them to launder money around the world.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other members of the board? If I can ask a few different questions. First up, a lot of great information. I'm wondering whether or not the slide deck can be made available for the board.
Yes, I will definitely make that available.
The second one, and you probably said it, but again, a lot of great information here. In Ontario, why, like you were talking about the fraud, romance, and otherwise, is, at least according to the numbers that I saw, was higher than other provinces. Did you say that it's due to population density, or is there other rationale for that? Or
That's exactly it. It's population density. So when you look at the losses in the States, there's $17 billion to, our 650 or 48 billion or million. When you look at, because the OP doesn't have the quantifiable numbers this year, well, we will certainly have them next year. When you look at Toronto Police Service, they reported $400 million in losses to their service alone. So just for the Anti-Fraud Center and Toronto Police, we're talking $1 billion. So when you look at that stat between 5 to 10% of people that report, I do believe that. So we're talking excess of billions of dollars that are lost to the Canadian economy, to businesses, to townships, to organizations. It's devastating.
next question, in terms of, and maybe this is an oversimplification to this, but this Bitcoin ATM that I must confess never heard of in my life, if they are in our municipality, and maybe this is an oversimplified way of resolving it, what if someone was to ban them?
Well, they're actually the companies that run the Bitcoin ATM machines are similar to the white label ATM machines that we saw in the 90s basically come to fruition, where we see them everywhere now. You can go to a Shore Place and get cash out and they charge you $3, right? Any of these businesses have to be registered with the federal government as a money business service. So they conduct the due diligence behind the scene to make sure these companies are associated to organized crime. Having said that, there's not too many benefits to having these crypto ATM machines other than convenience of putting your money in there and sending the funds over. When you look at the fees to purchase crypto through those facilities, it doesn't work out mathematically if you're an investor. So from a bylaw standpoint, I haven't heard of any municipalities looking to ban them. I do know in the States, some US states are looking to have them banned. But like I said, they're subject to the FinTrack's legislation, and if there's any suspicious transaction, they have to comply with legislation to report that to as suspicious transactions to FinTrack, which they're very good at doing.
I was just thinking that if it encourages prostitutes or otherwise utilizing them for whatever reasons, that's why I was thinking not that it's it in of itself is illegal. It's just that if you remove certain things sometimes in life, it gets rid of other issues. The last one I had, and then another one of my colleagues here has some questions and comments. Is there anything that the OPP or the larger organization needs from us in terms of, like you were mentioning, working with the Legion, long-term care facilities and otherwise? Is there anything that we as a board can do to assist in terms of the education piece or other things to assist?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. I think the awareness aspect is really important. So if the town has a website and they have a section for fraud, and it can direct them to Canada 211, so you can see resources in your community for supports. If you have links to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center and to the OP's website, and what that toolkit that I shared with Victoria earlier, that the awareness is power. And Sean Prever, who's the community service officer He does a great job. I work with him very closely. I help him write media releases, and he's very good for getting the information out there. So I think maintaining that sort of trajectory of the fraud prevention awareness, I think is really key. East Region OP has started a quasi-fraud group that essentially has members, and Upper Ottawa has 2 members right now that triage these reports and provide supports to the victims. So I think it's that awareness piece that whether you're be a patrol officer or anyone in the township or residents, I think the awareness piece is key.
Okay, thank you. Des?
I took my question right out of my mouth. I was going to just ask, what can we do at the police service board level to support and assist in hopefully reducing the number of local victims? And so thank you very much.
You're welcome. So when we look at the crypto posters that we created and the emergency grandparent scam posters that we've created, I believe we can get, there is copies at the detachment, but if you folks want some more printed material, we can get them to you to have in maybe the kiosks where customers come in and pay their tax bill or what have you, or you know, the library, something like that. It's just, as I said, knowledge is power in a lot of this, and to motivate people just to say no and hang up, I think it's the most important piece. And then when they do get victimized, to report it and try and act on it immediately. I think that's key. But you folks are doing great, and you know, having these sort of presentations to Police Services Board, I think, is really key to give that situational awareness, because there's so many priorities as you folks deal with every day or every month in the board, and this is just one sliver of the organized crime. And let's not kid ourselves, this is all organized crime. When we look at the emergency grandparent scam, that was attached to the mafia in Montreal. So fraud pays for the guns, the girls, and the drugs. You know, you don't have to put a gun to anyone's head anymore to get $150,000, which is why it's so pervasive and globalized.
Well, thank you very much for all of that, and look forward to receiving the slide deck and doing what we can to assist you.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll get that out to you folks very shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, so moving forward, we have OPP report, and we have the staff sergeant today with the quarterly report.
Good afternoon. I'm just filling in for Acting Inspector Bosa. He sends his regrets. He can't be here today. So I've been asked to speak about the quarterly 1 stats. Not to get ahead of myself, but after reviewing them, I'd like to think that we are trending in a positive direction for Q1. I just did notice I have the billing summary that I think we used to have with all the calls in front of me that isn't attached here. So, but I'll try to reference back and forth just so there is some clarity. I won't necessarily go line by line, but I will highlight some of the things that I think are necessary. So the first page I think that you have in front of you is the motor vehicle collisions. Obviously, you can see that those were they increased significantly. But what we did have this year was a winter, unlike last winter. So the collisions did go up. As we go through fatalities, again, none. So that's a very, very positive. Criminal code violations, quarterly, we are down. So it suggests that is positive in the sense of we don't have that interaction. Traffic related charges have increased. We'll flip over to the violent crime. On this page, you'll see 2 sections. One is just for March, the month of March, and then one is year to date, which would be January to March. So overall, violent crimes are down by 2%. So, I mean, nothing earth shattering, but also maintaining that stability. Property crime, very positive in itself. We are down year to date 35%, so trending in a good direction. Drug crime, I know that's been a hot topic over the last year, and we are down significantly by 50%. So that's year to date. As we flip over to other crime, which involves essentially just that other crime, federal, provincial, anything in those categories. Again, yes, we're up a bit, but when we're talking 10% overall, fairly status quo. I'll take you back over to the public complaint section. Again, another year of 0 complaints. And just below that, we're going to talk about the patrol section. When I was reading it, I was a little concerned because the foot patrol appears to be down, and I know this is just reflective, if you will, of March. So I was a little concerned. So I did a little bit of my own research, and I remember at a previous board meeting where the inspector committed to increase foot patrol, particularly in the downtown core. And what I will say in my own research is that for Q1 of this year, our foot patrols have increased 131% from last year. So we're committed, and we're continuing to be committed. And over a 5-year period, we're up 104%. So when I saw that, I kind of caught my attention because I know the officers are actively doing those patrols. Charges, mental health occurrences, they are up for the month of March, down year to date. I would say we're on par as to what we were last year. We have a fantastic MCERT team that's active in the community right now, and they're certainly playing a significant role in for intervention and prevention and support going forward. Overdose occurrences. We've had no fatalities year to date. We have had 2 reported non-fatal overdoses. So from last year, this time, it was 16. This year is 2. So we are certainly trending in the right direction. And then the last page just talks about our referrals that we make to different agencies and stakeholders that support us with the victim interaction. And I know you don't have this in front of you. I had highlighted some stats just for perspective. Year to date last year for drug possession occurrences was 76. This year we're at 34. So we are trending in the right direction. If you were to have had this, you would have noticed that the frauds have increased. I can't really take much light from John. Just did a fantastic presentation, and he can speak to why our frauds are going up. He did note that the East Region has started a new fraud program, if you will, and the Upper Ottawa Valley OPP has 3 members that are involved in this fraud investigation bureau. So they are specific to Upper Ottawa Valley frauds and working through them. As he spoke of Sean Peaver, Sean is going out just recently. He's trying to do a lot of the nursing homes, the care homes, the Legions, different facilities that engage with the elderly community, trying to get a handle on those, and also going to the high schools and interacting with the younger generation, as John did note that the texting, the chat GPT, Mr. Patel and I were nodding our heads at each other because we understand like the chat AI or chat GPT, the things that you can do with that system are just scary. I'll just quickly go through here. Last year, I know there was a big cause for concern when we were discussing domestic occurrences. And last year, year to date, we were at 124. This year, we're down to 87. So again, positively trending. And yeah. Are there any questions, comments, concerns?
Questions or comments for the staff sergeant? Pat?
Okay, yeah. So that's good news about the drug crimes, the opiate overdoses, they're down. Would that be because there's a change in the drugs that are around? Or have you had any busts where you've taken in drugs and noticed a change in what's being circulated?
I can't really speak to the change in drugs. I mean, again, we are very active. We are actively investigating. We do have other resources involved now. Like we do have an MCERT team that's getting that's involving themselves in, providing different supports for people. So, I mean, I can't necessarily speak to the exact thing that is causing it, but there's certainly a number of things that are supporting the efforts to decrease it.
Right, okay, no, it's good because through the chair, yeah, there's lots of things happening now. The MESA program, we have the warming center, we have more services available to those who want them. So, no, good work. That's great news. Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Des?
Thank you very much for your report. So for the drug crime, you report that the drug crimes are down and that possession is down. What has changed? Why is it reporting down when, like, I'm still hearing from community members that they don't see that. They don't, like, community members see it as up. And I think we can all know that there's one specific neighborhood in particular that is seeing the effects and feeling that it is still high, yet the stats reporting that it's down.
That's kind of a tricky one to answer in itself because I mean our stats are showing that they're down. Our calls for service are suggesting that they're down. Our community patrols are increased. Is it the typical we're not there when they're seeing it and we're not getting that same interaction that they are? That could be. Our crime unit is engaged and actively investigating any tips, leads, or suggestions of drugs within our community, drug trafficking within our community. I mean, other than them seeing it and us not being present at that time, that's the only thing I can speak to at this point. I mean, our stats are showing it. Our officer engagement is showing that we're out there being proactive. So it's not a question of being proactive and not, and our proactive reach is not there and the charges are not happening because we're not being proactive and engaged. It's our proactivity is there along with the stats.
Okay. And then the other question I have is, so you did say it, like, that when you're looking at the patrol hours, you noticed that it was only showing March, and then you brought us that the Q1 had increased. Why, like, if you look at every other page, it's showing March, and then it also shows us the year to date. Why does that only show us for March?
That's a great question. And I don't have an answer on that because I didn't print this out. So that's why when I looked at it, I did some digging because I'm not sure where the other section is to it. Because
like when you look at the March, like it looks like there's a downward trend from
Yep.
2023 to 2025.
Absolutely. That's why, like I said, when I looked at it, I went, whoa, this is not accurate. I mean, I'm out in Killaloo right now, and even being out there, I'm still very much engaged. And I looked at that and went, okay, well, I know this isn't the case because I'm seeing our occurrences, I'm seeing the reports, I'm seeing the news articles, the news, like the media releases, and I went, okay, there's something wrong there. So I can certainly look into this to figure out where the other piece is and get that provided to the board.
Okay.
But quickly before I got here, I just did a quick run so that I could present
And-
this information.
So then one last question. So stats are showing it, officer engagement is showing it. What can we do at the board level and with the OPP to help like talk to that neighborhood and reassure them and say like, we're here.
I mean, we are doing it. We are like community at the community meetings. Board members are going there. We're discussing them. We're engaging with them. I mean, just continued communication with them, hearing their concerns. And I mean, what are their concerns? Bringing them to us to see that, you know, is there a certain time frame that some of these occurrences are happening and we might not be there? And is it increasing the patrol time during a certain time frame? You know, what specifically are those concerns that they're needing to be addressed, and what is the
Where's the
disconnect?
Okay, thank you.
When you say meetings, you're referring to the community watch meetings?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay,
That's where I'm
just,
going.
okay, I was just trying to
through the
figure out
chair.
what you meant.
Just to answer one of your questions about the public, we attended a neighborhood watch meeting, which I attend every quarter, and the consensus was from all the block captains that there was much less happening. So, like in other words, there were much less criminal activity. They are seeing it improving because the people that have the areas that have neighborhood watch are looking after their neighbors, and there's much less than what there had been in criminal activities. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. I believe that sometimes the perception that something is happening, and it may be valid, but the ability to actually act on it is very difficult. And I think that may be the case where neighbors are seeing things, they're calling, but the OPP just can't go bang people's doors down. So there could be ongoing investigations going around these neighborhoods, but nothing's really going to happen until they have the substance to actually do something. They can suspect that, yes, there is some things going on in that home or that property, but like I said, they can't just jump all over it because that's going to go against what they want to achieve, actually. So I think that might be occurring in that neighborhood, but it's probably not invisible to the police department. So I just want people to know that it just can't happen instantaneously because you see something going on and you suspect that there is illegal activity happening. But there's no doubt certain that particular neighborhood is still experiencing maybe that because a lot of the vulnerable population, some things they witness too might be more of a mental health issue rather than a drug issue. So sometimes people, you know, will think that it's obviously drugs and maybe it isn't. So anyway, that's my take on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, at the last community watch meeting, there was a good presentation again from Constable Peaver as well as Crime Stoppers. And so that was new to that particular realm, I know we had received a presentation here, but that's not everyone's watching our YouTube. And so it's reaching these individuals who are community minded and they're right in their own area and, providing that information to them. And Constable Peaver, again, reinforcing that you call 911 if it's a crime in progress. Otherwise, you can report it to the non-emergent line, and to emphasize to some individuals that it's not an a vigilante type of, because there was one block captain that I think was following people, which no. Anyways, so, okay. Any more questions for the staff sergeant? Seeing none, thank you for your report. Brings us to working with youth. Mike?
Right. March 19th, I met with Rodina Gardner, Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club. Also Acting Inspector Steve Boza, Acting Staff Sergeant Ian Morey. We discussed the best practices for OPP officers to engage with our youth. Our Boys and Girls Club meet at Wesley United Church at 275 Pembroke Street East. They operate up to 10 programs for children's age 6 to 13. It was suggested informal visits by the OPP officer might be the best way for the officers to meet and talk with the children. So Sergeant Morey has offered to take the lead on this. In my opinion, this would be an effective way of having positive OPP officer interaction with this group of youngsters. I'm asking my fellow board members to consider a small budget for prizes that officers could hand out to the children when attending the Boys and Girls Clubs events. On another note, our annual Kids and Cops Fishing Derby is coming up. Last year was held on August 10th. I'm not sure what the date is just yet. We had a great turnout. Our board, just to remind everybody, has budgeted $500 towards this very successful derby. Constable Sean Peaver is one of the main organizers, along with a number of volunteers. Each year, we've had a good turnout of OPB officers who help with the Kids Fishing Derby. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. That's my report.
Pat?
We'll just leave it right there. Absolutely, through the chair, 100%. I'd love to see us budget something and to give to those children. And I think that the more interaction, positive interaction, you can give any children, any youth with the police force is great. And they see them in a positive light. So yeah, I'd support donating, maybe money for, I don't know, bicycle horns, different things, bells.
Through the chair, I think we should let the officers tell us which would be,
Yeah,
because
no.
that's going to be what they're doing. It's going to be an informal visit
Okay.
and just to get to know the kids. And then from there, we'll see. I'm also asking the Boys and Girls Club that they should come up with some sort of a draft of what they would expect.
That's a
And
great idea.
to see, we have to have some goals and see what we're ending up with here.
Yeah. No, that would be great. Some way of measuring it. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I support it 100%.
Mike, did you want to make a motion in,
Or is there a number?
or you can just roll with it?
Take direction. We
Okay.
can take it from our budgeted items for public relations.
Mr. Chair, I was
Yeah.
thinking some of the small prizes could be City of Pembroke prizes and maybe some stuff that could be purchased OPP name on it so that the connection is there between the
Mhm.
community
Mhm.
rather than buying something that, that may not, they can't attach it to it, say like a bicycle light or something. But if we have City of Pembroke, that has a name on it that we can give it T-shirts, whatever.
Well, through you, they really love those lights.
Yes,
The armband lights.
I
know the kids love those, but yeah, things like
I don't think there's any more left after Expo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Okay, thanks for that report. You're up again. OAPSB report.
I attended a meeting, OAPSPB, Zone 2 meeting on April 25th. It was held in Kingston. Now, all of us received notes from Diane Smithson, from our Secretary Treasurer. So I'm not going to go through this whole, all the minutes that she wrote, but I will touch on a few things I think that are important to us. Graham Wright, who's the Inspector of Policing, our police services advisor, he provided the following updates. The Inspector of Policing will begin to ensure compliance with policies under the Community Safety and Policing Act. For example, business plans, strategic plans. The inspectorate has released its strategic plan. A concept of policing across the province is being worked on. Who is doing what, the number of officers, qualifications, what happens where, etc. Half of the inspectorate staff are data collection staff, with information being released on its website. Some of the critical points policy to solidify who does what in a crisis is outlined in a memo making recommendations on the public order inquiry about the Ottawa convoy. And you're looking at adequate and effective policing, and policing standards manual set minimum standards for policing. The Inspectorate General wants to go further than minimum standards. Generally applicable standards need to be developed by each police service, which may take into account the needs of the community and best practices so that the police services know how to apply policing functions to specific communities. One other item here, Dave Preston was a consultant that was used by the OAPSB. He has developed a core policy set that can be used as a starting point for boards to use. The next update was from Lisa Darling. She is our executive director. In terms, and you'll all be happy to hear this, in terms of the new training plan, the first 2 courses have been developed with a total of 17 courses being identified. A detailed update will be provided at the annual conference, which is going on, I think, in the next week or so. The courses have been categorized as mandatory, board operations, all board members, and specialized training. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mike? Thank you for attending that for us and providing us with the report. Last up under new business is the Pembroke Expo, and I know we were all aware, very well attended. I'm very appreciative of everyone working collectively to represent the board. Certainly a lot of active individuals coming forward. It was nice to be where we were located and to be in proximity to the OPP and to have the OPP presence, not only in terms of their booth, but just walking around and being present. Certainly spurred on a lot of different questions. I don't know what other board members thoughts are in terms of how it went, but that was my take on it. Christine?
It's nice to see the event grow to the point where it has gotten to this year. I know when Patricia and I were at our booth, we did have a visit from, and his name escapes me, from Crime Stoppers. And he reminded both of us that he had attended one of our PSB meetings last year and we had discussed some sort of partnership. And he I think his words were, why did your board drop the bomb or drop me like a hot potato? So, I said, well, we've had some state changes, we've had staffing changes, so maybe there's been something along the way where we haven't followed through, but I think it's really worthwhile to get back to him and develop some sort of relationship. He's very keen and sees all of us working together for our community. So we did say that we'd bring that up at our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Through the chair, staff and through collaboration with direction from the board has worked with Crime Stoppers to provide free advertisement on our news mail out. We've printed a number of items for them as well, and I look to grow and strengthen that partnership. And I'll look back through the notes and send the board anything I think that perhaps got missed. But yes, if I can have the name of the individual, I'll reach out and we'll start some new activities and initiatives for 2025.
Yeah, no, thank you for mentioning that, Christine. I think it's so important because I really didn't understand until they made the presentation last year, like the neighborhood that we just discussed that still witnesses things, they could possibly go through that venue as well, Crime Stoppers, and report different things because it's completely anonymous and they could probably, assist in some of the investigations that the officers eventually may have to get involved in. But I would definitely be promoting that asset in our community a lot more. Yeah, he was very upfront, but I was glad he came to us. And we know that it was last July, and there was it might have been the October meeting, but there was a lot of changes happening in staff. So we didn't point the finger at anybody. We just sort of said, well, definitely it will happen. And so thank you very much for that. Good.
Thank you. And just to point out though, at the watch meeting, all captains for all, I think it's 8 zones were present, and that is one zone that was present. So they got to hear the same presentation that, if anything, I think it was a longer presentation than what we received. But in any event, so it was a great presentation though, but all 8 zones received, and it's not just the captains that arrive at anyone's open to the public. So sometimes there's individuals from that community, because I know that there's the one that we're talking about, there was individuals from that community that are not captains were present as well to provide comment and to indicate what they had observed. But all 8 zones were represented at the meetings, as they always are. And that's just that's a present, so that we're all clear. That's a presentation in terms of a community watch meeting. There is other community watch meetings that happen at a particular zone in Pembroke near Elizabeth Street that gets brought to comments brought to that meeting, because there's unique concerns in the Elizabeth Street zone. And there was one zone I should point out as well, I think it was Chamberlain Street, very pleasant lady, loves her community, but has absolutely nothing to report every time because she says there's nothing going on, which so that's always great to hear. Anyways, no correspondence this afternoon. I think for number 10, I think it's July 23rd, at least. So did we move it? Because I went back to the previous.
And I have the meeting invite sent out for the 23rd as well, and I didn't have it in the minutes. So unless I missed something, we can. Right, unless I missed something, we can certainly amend. That's what I had in the scheduled. The schedule is laid out in the report, and then the subsequent meeting invites sent.
Because it doesn't matter to me. The
Yeah.
21st is a Monday, as I recall. The 23rd, what I did was I went not in the minutes, but to the report from the January meeting, and it spoke to the 23rd. So I'm okay. So are we good with the 23rd? Okay. And a motion to adjourn. Moved by Des, seconded by Pat. Those in favor, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.